you see the draft one?
I don't.
All right, we're going to go with whatever we have right now. It's only an example. How's that?
Sounds good.
All right, good morning, everyone. It is 10:45. It is August 10th, and welcome back to LEAD. June 10th was our last LEAD meeting as we finished up with a really strong and fun set of spring sports tournaments. So we'd like to welcome you to this year's first LEAD meeting, and we'd like to welcome new ADs that are new to the profession. We'd also like to welcome ADs that are in a new location, same profession, but maybe a different school. We're seeing up to close to 70 in either of those scenarios this year. So welcome. And our theme here today is going to be getting you started, right? What information do you need to get started here? Most of you on August 16th, yet we know we have a bunch of teams up to 10 that started in 0 week this week. So congratulations to you getting started as well. Speaking of new, we have a couple new staff members here. Eric, I'm going to turn it over to you to welcome them and introduce them to those that are unaware. Eric.
Thanks, Bob, and good morning, everybody. It's great to be back on LEAD with everyone, and an exciting time here on August 10th as we look forward to the kickoff for the greatest amount of our activities next Monday. The league has gone through a couple of hiring processes, and many of you are well aware that one of your longtime colleagues remains a colleague, but his office is going to change, and he's now with us at the Minnesota State High School League. So welcome and congratulations to Charlie Campbell, who's been named as the most recent associate director here with the Minnesota State High School League. Many of you have commented to me or others about your excitement around that hire, and we too are really excited to have Charlie on board and want to welcome him from Brainerd Schools and to have him here at the league working with us. Second person that we were able to hire is a name that is familiar to Minnesota. Kara Pearson is a St. Paul Harding graduate and most recently was working at Long Island University in the collegiate world. And we are glad to have her join us in a support staff role as an administrative assistant. And she'll be working with a number of our programs, supporting our directors and working closely with our ADs in that role. And again, a reminder that Amanda Johnson, who was an assistant for Bob Madison and also Kevin Merkel before that, has taken the role as executive assistant here within the high school league, and she is now working directly with me. So as you're making your contacts, please make sure, and you're going to hear later about where to find who to talk to specifically on your questions. So with that, Bob, I'll turn it back to you.
Great. Let's look at our agenda here just quickly, getting you started hopefully in a successful mode here this fall season. You can see that we're going to talk a little bit more and reframe LEAD for you, talk about schedule, give you some updates. How do we start that season? What do you need to be aware of, especially if you're new to the position? Updates on the website from Laura. We're going to delve into eligibility a little bit. And I'm just going to caution you that I'm going to give you some highlights of what we're seeing this year, and we'll get in a little more in depth as the year goes on. And then COVID is still here, right? We're managing it. We'll have some guidance coming from you and just some things that to be aware of and recommendations as we begin, and for those of you that have begun already. And then we'll conclude with quick takes. We can go on here at this time. Let's just redefine LEAD here. Really what our purpose is to get you the most effective, efficient information as we possibly can. Our schedule is noted on your dashboard. It basically will be twice a month, except for when we're in tournament season or around the holidays. We will also adjust if necessary as new information emerges or we're feeling that there are trends of questions that you need. Again, we want to educate you. We want to allow you to lead, administer, and we want to develop you in this profession as we go. Liaisons will continue this year. We are going to bring on a couple, or I should say more than a couple of new liaisons. Majority of them will stay on again for this year. But that's a group that will be connecting to you in or around your geographic area. At this time, I am going to turn it over to Laura for updates.
So lead and the weekly updates are really the two primary communication avenues from league office to our ADs across the state. League updates you saw last year coming frequently to you as things changed. Our intent this year is to send these weekly, with Thursdays being the target date. We will, of course, send them as needed at other times, but you can look for these to come to your inbox on Thursdays. We do send these to ADs, assistant ADs, and AD assistants. From there, we trust that if there is information that is coach related or sport specific, that you will pass that information on to the appropriate people from there. Again, they come to your inbox, but they are also archived on your AD dashboard. And on your AD dashboard, you'll see a section that's called League Updates. We categorize these on there by the date they were sent, and then also try to put the highlights of what the topics were. So if you're trying to find the one that had information on a specific topic, you should be able to breeze through and look through those topics and see which one of those you need to access. If you are not, or your assistant is not getting these from us, dropping an email to info@mshsl.org, we'll make sure that we get you back on the list or newly on the list to get these. So again, aim is to send these Thursdays or as needed this year. You'll see it live in your inbox as well as having those archived for you to go back and access. Moving on to talk a little bit about league finances. Eric, this is yours, I believe.
Thank you, Laura. Appreciate that. And obviously finance has been a conversation for the league for the last 20 months as we encountered shutdowns of tournaments way back in the spring of 2020 and all the way through the year. There is, I believe, some good news to share in terms of the processes and the work that's been done toward financial stability of the Minnesota State High School League. As I share with folks, we are not out of the woods yet, but we are certainly finding a path toward that end. Our year-end budget finished far better than anticipated. And as you have to do oftentimes, we had to plan for some of the most challenging circumstances and then work really hard to see what we could do to make things a bit better. A number of folks that really stepped up and supported the league in providing opportunities for kids and working really hard to be really cost efficient for us made a big difference. And so many of our schools hosted tournament rounds that typically wouldn't be held at our high schools. You can see basketball and wrestling called out here. And then final venue sites that oftentimes have been in larger and or collegiate settings that we took to high school sites. Dance, wrestling, gymnastics, track and field, lacrosse switched high schools to Stillwater, and tennis were all tournaments that ended up at high school sites. And what happens when we go to high school sites, and certainly we may or may not be impacted by what we get for attendance at those. And if you think back to dance and wrestling and gymnastics, we were limited on what our attendance could be, but the experience was still provided for our kids. And as a result of that, as well as some other impacts, specifically a paycheck protection program loan for $600,000+ that was forgiven, really targeted to offset the $500,000 loss from a year ago in our finances. And then as well as sponsorships and broadcasts that came through for us to provide some additional revenue. The league also encountered significant cost-cutting measures, including staff and other things, $270,000+ in tournament program printing costs that were dropped as a result of going to online programs and things like that. In the end, we were able to bring the projected membership dues for this coming year down additionally. So if you remember, the Finance Advisory Committee recommended that we establish a sustainable model that would have carryover dollars and membership dues provide a sustainable amount to be able to start each year. And so when we look at that and the formula that's provided with that, taking some of the excess revenues from this past year to backfill losses and or needs within our carryover, but then to be able to reduce, we took a $4.5 million request of our schools. We reduced it by $620,000 for an anticipated second round of the PPP loan. And then additionally, with additional revenues from this past year, brought it down by another $1 million. So instead of 4.5, we're looking to our schools for about 2.8 million. Invoices are being created right now to be able to be sent out. We did have actually a handful of schools who sent us checks already based on projected MSHSL dues from June, but our board in the August workshop was able to reset those, and round numbers, and please again, wait for your invoice, but round numbers were $160 per activity and $4.60 per student. But I want to make sure that that's accurate in all calculations. So please wait for that invoice that should be coming your way. But those membership dues are quite a bit below what was even projected in June when they were set at that time. So we're very hopeful as we go toward this year. And we have added a staff member back and continue to try to provide the services and the programming that's necessary for our schools. Bob, with that, I'll let you clean anything up and or turn it back to you for the next steps.
Eric, let's stay with finance just a moment longer here. I think to highlight a couple things that you noted. We noted our high school sites that were used not only for our state tournaments, but also that were utilized for postseason and section play. So many of our schools that hosted, you assisted your sections in ending hopefully in a healthy financial status as well. And then also Eric touched on broadcasting, where we use those professional venues and our traditional venues to be able to capture those broadcasting dollars from those venues. I think assisted us in that financial model, Eric, and where we're currently at. And then Eric, maybe just touch on streaming, something we didn't we had streaming, but we didn't have that financial model in place for streaming. Eric, if you could just touch on what streaming did to assist finances here in this last year.
Yeah, obviously many of you also engage with streaming organizations to bring your events back to our fans. We've been working with School Space Media over the last couple of years with an agreement to try to provide access for everything. This year, we look to move that forward into a revenue producing model as well. And our streaming revenue for our winter and our spring was just over $100,000. So again, certainly an impact to the budget from the league standpoint. And we know our TV broadcast partner has some of the, what I would call most desired tournaments for broadcast, but School Space does a great job of getting to almost everything that we offer and sharing that. And that did provide some revenue back to the league as well. So thanks for those reminders, Bob.
Yep, great. Thank you, Eric. Let's get started here with our seasons, and just always remember the health and safety of our student athletes, our coaches, and those who are in attendance are of utmost importance. Please make sure that those emergency action plans, or EAPs as we call them internally here, are completed. As we talked about it this morning, if you have 4 different levels of any sport, you may have 4 different emergency action plans. If something catastrophic happens, who is going to do what? Right? And make sure that we're in position to start with that in place, especially when we have new coaches, maybe in new venues, or maybe they're off-site from your campus, making sure everybody has that emergency action plan. I'm sitting here looking outside, looking like the skies could open at any moment. It's another reminder where we're at in this fall season. If you have inclement weather, that information as well as emergency action plans are found on your dashboard for your ease as to what to do when that weather occurs. And again, health and safety of our student athletes is of utmost importance. This time I'm going to turn it over to Charlie. Charlie, welcome to Lead, and welcome to our team. Let's talk about coaches and what they need to know and what they need to have to get started here this fall.
Great. Thanks, Bob, and good morning, everybody. Really, this kind of gets back to the website, which is just becoming more and more powerful in the work that we're doing. And so thanks to Laura for her work around that. But it really starts with making sure that coaches are becoming members, just like you did as ADs, making sure that coaches are becoming members and providing and or updating their contact information. In your office as an AD or an assistant, you have the ability to assign those coaches to teams, and that becomes really kind of our point for communication and important communication that comes from the office. So it really does start there, and we look for your assistance in getting that going. And we want to take a look back and just remember that the lead or the website, as we started last fall, was really a brand new tool to us. And we know the chaos of our fall season. So while we tended to get better at utilizing the league or the website over the course of last year as it went along, there may be some cleanup that needs to be done from our fall activities. Note that once coaches are assigned to the right activities, in their dashboard, their education requirements are going to show up. If you have new coaches, again, important that they get set up properly into that website. But annually, there's going to be a general rules meeting that all coaches will need to complete, and sports-specific rules meetings that will be required for them as well. If you are bringing new head coaches on board and they have not taken yet the Minnesota head coaches course, it's going to be important, again, that we look to get them registered for that course. Currently, you can find this information in the dashboard, Minnesota head coaches course information. Right now, all of these courses are being offered in Zoom. We do have hopes as this year continues that we may be able to provide some in-person opportunities as well. If you have questions, you can reach out to Amy or me, but again, that information can be found on your dashboard. And finally, there is a calendar for the year for your reference on your dashboard. And you can see in the graphic here that Laura's provided on these slides, that'll give you by season, by sport, really important dates where rules meetings will be posted, the length of time that those meetings will be posted and accessible, and when the dates of your first competitions are. So be sure to check that out. And again, if there are any questions, know that we're here to help you and your staff get through those things. And I think, Laura, I'm going to kick it to you to talk about the calendar.
So as Charlie said, just a reminder that that one-page printable calendar is on the calendar page of the website. You can get to that from either the public website or the calendars button on your dashboard. There are always a number of other calendars that float around. For example, in your supply orders this week, if you ordered the 3-year calendar, you will get that. Printable calendars soon go out of date, however. So the most current information will always be this one-page printable that you can see was last updated July 21st. We do have one fix for baseball that needs to get added to that. So you will see an update on that soon also. Also, just a couple of screenshots there as people talk through things, weather information that is on your AD dashboard alphabetically under W. There is a list of the coaches online rules meeting and the dates those come out. So as your coaches are wondering when they're going to see those, or you want to communicate with your coaches, know that you have that list of when all of those will be available also. Bob, a couple notes for you about officials waivers, please.
Yeah, thank you, Laura. And I'm going to back up just quickly as we move into competition. If your coaches haven't completed the coaches ed requirements or the online rules meetings, a red flag should go off, right? Those should be done prior to competition. Protect yourself, protect your coaches, making sure that they've met those requirements. Official waivers. We know that we have less officials than we did a couple of years ago. Officials waivers are for emergency situations only, in case of an illness and or a sickness, or and or an accident, something like that would occur where you need help and need to work with less officials. It's not because we just have less officials and you want to plan a certain date. So many of you have had to flex already with moving schedules. We need to work with less officials, and those waivers are typically day of. It is not a season waiver where you say we have less officials and we can't supply so many for soccer, for instance. It is for emergency situations only. We continue to work on recruiting officials. It is the job of all of ours to try and get the best and the most officials that we possibly can. So again, remember the intent of the waivers as we move into our fall season. At this time, I believe I'm going to turn it back to you, Laura, to give us again more updates around our website and learning opportunities. Laura?
Thanks, Bob. So as we move into this year, next week, we'll have a few sessions that you and or others in your office can attend. We will record these as we always do and make those available to you afterwards. But the live sessions are always good for some Q&A also. We will get you links to these in this week's update, but you may want to mark these on your calendars at this point. On Tuesday afternoon at 2 o'clock, we'll do some learning around coaches, both a reminder of the requirements that coaches have for their education, and then also the steps on how to make sure that you have them in the right places. How do you add a coach? How do you remove a coach? How do you assign a coach a level? So if you want some live tutorials of those pieces, Tuesday afternoon at 2. Wednesday and Thursday, we'll have our schools. Those of you that met Ruben last year, he will be doing some trainings again for our Minnesota State High School League. Again, as we move toward having rosters, schedules, and results available on the website, those are syncing out of our schools. So Wednesday will feature how to make sure that your schedules and results are being added and then moving to the website. And then Thursday will be all around rosters. We're expecting each of these sessions to last about a half an hour, but again, always time for Q&A after those. So mark your calendars now, know that links will be in this Thursday's update on how to get to each of those sessions next week. And then just a few things that you can access right now on your dashboard. On the top of your dashboard in one of the orange alerts, there is a checklist for you to move through in your office as you get ready for the fall. Many of these are pieces that many of you had up to date as you moved through the year last year. But again, as Charlie alluded to, always just a tough spot as we were in some COVID interesting times last year as people were doing things for the first time. So some of you may have some cleanup and or resetting to do. So there's a checklist that's printable up at the top. And then the very top button on the right-hand side of your dashboard is the website help guide. And that again has been revamped for year 2. It has a nice table of contents at the beginning. You can also use the search feature to get through that. And the intent there is to have all of those pieces in one place. So as we talk about emergency action plans a few minutes ago, there's a section in there that talks about emergency action plans. The topics that we're going to cover at those sessions next Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday, if you are a person who likes to read the directions instead of see a video, know that all of that information is also in text form in that update. So resources for you within the website right now as you continue getting ready for this school year. So with that, I'm going to hand it back over to Bob as we transition into talking about eligibility and where some of those pieces are at this year.
Great, thanks for those updates, Laura. I think it's my role and lead to keep us to a half an hour. I can tell you I'm probably going to fail today. We have some content-rich topics here yet, but out of respect for your schedules, we're going to do our best to keep it as succinct as possible. Here's what we're seeing with eligibility. A big thank you to Susie and Laura for where we're at with the portal. We did not have this obviously a year ago as it looks currently. And you're using it well. We've had close to or over now 120 entries since August 11. And remember, reviews according to bylaw 111 do not begin till the 3rd week of August. Remember, our eligibility committee is made up of people like you. ADs, principals, superintendents have served on the eligibility committee, and we had our board meeting with them last week. One of the outcomes from our board and really from the eligibility committee, we continue to look at bylaws, and a standing ad hoc committee around eligibility will continue and will begin this year and continue in years after. We're going to start with bylaws 110 and 111, where there's questions, looking at the language. Is it still effective? What questions do we have moving forward? Again, this will be a standing committee starting this year with 110 and 111. I will be reaching out to some of you to serve on that committee, also pulling from some some from our other standing committees, and that committee should look like our member schools. Also, as we get into eligibility, know that we'll go more in depth at area meetings. We'll continue to use LEAD for eligibility. When you have questions around eligibility, it's going to be best for you to work with Susie first. Susie does a great job of filtering what needs to get to me, but she's your first stop. If possible, around questions with eligibility. How you speak with Susie will also probably how you'll be met in terms of communication. If you're frustrated, she's going to be frustrated, but she does a great job of serving you around questions of eligibility. So Laura and Susie, thank you again for the portal, how it's working, and it continues to change as we notice things. Delving a little bit further into eligibility around the education and what we're noticing right now. If we could go to that next slide, please. Couple things to help you in terms of homeschools, the questions that we're getting right now pertaining to bylaw 104, state statute says homeschool students have the ability to participate. They need to register through your resident school district. Homeschool students or homeschool families are not just students using online educations at home. They need to be a registered homeschool through your resident district in order to participate. I am hearing and seeing more cooperative agreements taking place this year. And what that looks like is this. If a homeschool family in their resident area is looking to participate elsewhere, they can become a member school. All right, they are in their own school. They're an independent school. And what they would do is look to co-op with a district outside of their resident area. They can do that again, but remember, they need to be a member school first in order to do so. And you need to follow the process like any other co-op as it exists. Certified online providers. Many of you have asked for that list. That list is now linked under eligibility resources, I believe, is where it's located. And that list is ever changing. There are far more certified online providers than there were even a year ago as districts try to create their own online schooling options for their students. So understand and know where those exist. That link is there. Just because it's on the certified online provider list doesn't mean that they can just participate at their resident school. Remember, if it is administered by an independent school district, right? Again, if it's an online provider offered by an independent school district or a public school of that fashion, they may participate at their resident school. And you'll often see that in the program description. If the program description shows it as a charter school, if it is an online charter school on that certified online provider list, their eligibility lies with that charter school. And if that charter school co-ops with another member school, they may participate within that co-op as well. Again, I mentioned that link, utilize it, become familiar with those terms. At this time, Laura, if you could show us one of the tools that we're going to add for this year that is not quite complete. This is something that for those of you that have been ADs for some time, we've had a transfer eligibility guide. This is going to be a resource for you that will show you if it's an online school or if it's a charter school, where is their initial eligibility? Are they able to co-op? What provisions exist within that? And then also what we're continuing to work on and make sure it's accurate right now is what Minnesota state statute does it pertain to? As we get those questions, as you get those questions, we believe this will be a useful guide moving forward. Again, it's not yet quite complete, but we have other resources coming as well. This is one example of that. Back to eligibility, Laura, Susie, Eric, anything I missed around that eligibility information?
So just to follow up on the resource that Bob said was available with the online providers, on the right side of your dashboard, there are two links that both have a lot of information behind them. One is membership resources. And if you're looking for anything around co-ops, that would be your place to look for that. And the other one Bob mentioned was the eligibility resource page. That is where you'll find the online learning providers, but also a lot of other eligibility related resources. So if you've not found and used those pages, I would suggest you try those also. Bob, I think you're muted.
All right, we're going to finish up eligibility and we're going to go into COVID here with Eric, I believe.
Good morning, everybody. And I'm going to turn this to Charlie here momentarily. But again, remember that when it comes to COVID, it's around mitigation strategies and how do we layer those protections to be able to create the safest possible experience for a lot of reasons. One, we want safe and healthy participants, coaches, officials, everyone involved. And two, we want to avoid interruptions to the best possible way that we can. And that's interruptions for an entire program, but also for individuals. And so by taking steps here, I think that you can be in a better place to be able to provide those. And to talk through some of this, I'm going to turn it to Charlie.
Great, thank you, Eric. We've had quite a lot of conversation amongst ourselves in the office about the guidance that comes forward, and just know that we're trying to synthesize the best information as it comes from the CDC, the Department of Health, and the Department of Education. We're trying to do our best to use common language so that no matter where your eyes may go and what information you're getting, that you're going to see and feel and experience some of these languages in the same way that we're using them here from the high school league office. We know for a fact that this Delta variant is more transmissible. It is on average spreading to twice as many people as a traditional COVID virus. And we also know that it is transmitting in about half the time. And so it remains a concern for us, and it is necessitating our conversation here around COVID and the continuing strategies and the layered protections, as Eric mentioned. First and foremost are vaccines. It is the #1 recommendation to reduce transmission and to reduce the severity of effects and to keep people out of the hospitals. #2 are mask requirements, and being mindful that especially when indoors and in crowded spaces, that masks will help reduce the spread of COVID and the Delta variant. In addition, thinking about distancing, keeping spacing between groups of people, establishing cohorts or pods, all things to which we've become very familiar over the last year. And then ongoing screening and monitoring of symptoms, your own, your coaching staff, and certainly the student participants, and making sure that when symptoms present themselves, two things are happening. One, those particular people are staying away from our programs, and #2, that they're taking the opportunity to get tested so that we can identify and isolate those cases that turn in to positive. We also know that there are just general hygiene practices, right? Just hand washing, again, staying home if you're preventing symptoms, and cleaning and sanitizing, especially in our high traffic, high touch areas. We know that this year, our guidance, at least as we come out of the gate, we feel like there's going to be a lot more recommendation than requirement. But we can tell you with certainty that there will be a mask requirement for those participants that are riding school transportation. So you're going to see that, and you're going to hear that as we come out of the gates. It is our full intention to present to you some further guidance on what practices might look like, and some of those recommendations. And I think it's important that we really think about what have we learned. What do we know? What did we learn last year? We know we want to try to avoid indoor spaces. We want to try to avoid extended use in locker rooms and changing facilities. Is it necessary for us to have showers? What are we thinking about off court and off field activities? Right? Are we doing team meals? And if we're doing team meals, what does that look like and feel like? And are we taking the proper precautions? We know that when we've implemented these layered protections in our programs, we know that we've really done a great work in reducing the spread and the transmission between our participants. But it's these other activities, these more social activities, when we let our guard down. And so what are you planning for, and what are you thinking around those activities? And it's going to be our position that we think very carefully rather than return to life as it was 2 years ago, and just kind of throwing caution to the wind and doing things as we've always done them. That is not going to be typical for us as we move through this year. So again, look for more specific guidance from us Thursday. That is our target as we continue to do work in preparing that for you here in the league office. And Eric, I'll kind of throw this back your way if there's anything that I missed, or Bob, Laura, as we talk about our mitigation strategies moving into our fall seasons.
Charlie, I think you did a great job of summarizing the areas in which we're going to provide guidance to folks, but a lot of it, as we mentioned, is going to be recommendations. Keep in mind that your schools and or programs have plenty of opportunity to add other strategies and or be more restrictive than what might be recommended. Every step that can be taken to keep kids safe and to keep practices and competitions in a safe space are going to be helpful to continuing the programs that we have. I know that folks are anxious to see where they're at, and many schools are going through long discussions and at board tables around what they're doing with masking and how they're going to present learning opportunities for the coming year. And we're in a world of much more local control this year, where last year was a lot of executive orders and statewide rules and or mandates. And so our goal is to provide guidance that's going to assist you in creating safe opportunities for our students as they participate. And we're hopeful that that's going to be effective. And again, as Charlie mentioned a number of times, go back to what worked well and what you learned through your experiences over the course of the past year. Bob, I'll turn it back to you.
Great job, Charlie. Great job, Eric. And feels really different than where we were a year ago, which I believe is a good thing, but it also feels different from where we were last June. Let's get started. Let's keep playing, and let's use these layered mitigation strategies and or protection as we move through the fall season. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Lisa for quick takes.
Thank you, Bob, and good morning once again to everyone. In closing out today's lead meeting, we want to remind you of a few things. The first of which is that the supplies that you ordered for your schools are shipping this week. So be on the lookout for all of these items. There's also a new AD workshop, and you are reminded that that workshop is set for next week. And please remember to register online at the MNI AAA website, if you would, please. Earlier, you heard that we've added staff and that some of our responsibilities have changed. And so if you have any need to reach out to any league staff member, please use the MSHSF staff directory on your AD dashboard. And there you will find phone numbers and emails for all of the league staff, along with a listing of everyone's areas of responsibilities. So just know that that's the place where you can go to find contact information for any of us. Area meetings will take place at 9 locations throughout the state beginning September 13th. And this, quite frankly, is our way of bringing people together to discuss a variety of topics related to events and eligibility, policies and processes, and other items that lead to positive, safe, athletic environments. And you are reminded that at least one person with administrative responsibilities from each member school must attend the fall area meeting. And registration materials will be provided to you in the coming weeks. And then finally, on June 23rd, 2022, education groups and sports organizations will celebrate the 50th anniversary of Title IX, and the league will join the rest of the nation in celebrating this historic moment in our history, and we encourage you to do the same. As you already know, Title IX made a significant difference in the lives of women and girls by providing them with opportunities to play and to compete in sports, regardless of their gender, race, or abilities. And we are making plans to salute the athletes who have benefited from Title IX, and we will honor those who 5 decades ago diligently worked to create a culture that recognizes, respects, and values female athletes. So you can look for stories and articles in all of our publication and social media platforms and tournament activations that celebrate our rich history of girls' sports. Bob, I believe it's back to you.
Great. Well done, Lisa. I'm getting a note here. Just a reminder on the MNI AAA, the new ADs, get registered today. All right, get registered today. We will see you in St. Cloud on Thursday. I believe they are meeting here maybe tomorrow and the next day as well with some meetings. So that's a reminder again from Matt Matson. Otherwise, thank you to the 260 for hanging with us here on this week's edition of Lead. We look forward to the next time that we're able to get together. Good luck on your preparation. And we look forward to seeing our student athletes and participants starting. Thank you.